Hello, NoSo Nation. I am Richie Mars. I'm here with Ryan Everett, and we are here to cover number 7 of our War Games Countdown. Match that got our number 7 spot is NXT TakeOver WarGames 2019. Team Ciampa consisting of Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, Dominic Dijakovic, and Kevin Owens taking on the Undisputed Era. Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. Ryan, you were actually here at this event.
Yep.
How was it compared to the previous War Games match that you saw earlier that night?
It was interesting. It was very different because this had all 8 people in it, whereas the other one only actually had 6 competitors because they had the Dakota Kai, Tegan Knox injury angle. And then also Kevin Owens was a mystery guy. It wasn't announced until he actually came out, which got probably, the biggest pop of the night, just seeing him. It was really unclear who it was going to be, and we could talk to that in the build to the match. But yeah, it was a great surprise, and then it just kind of built from there, where it was like the finishing sequence is kind of like a video out of the video games or something, where everyone's just doing, they got 3 specials locked up, so they're doing all the crazy moves off the top of the cage and whatnot.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the finishing sequence of this match, but like you said, the build of this matchup. Now, this was during a crazy time in not only WWE history, but wrestling history as well, because this is when AEW Dynamite was on TV during this time, and NXT was being promoted as the third brand of WWE. And the Undisputed Era showed up on SmackDown, Raw, same with most of the NXT roster. They had that Friday night SmackDown NXT Invasion, I believe, the night before this, or
I think
maybe like a week or two
they
before.
did it for like 2 weeks in a row. I think the big one was like early November, because that was when they had the trouble with the Saudi Arabia,
yes.
where like half the roster was still stuck over there, and it was only like Daniel Bryan, who didn't go, was like the only SmackDown guy I think that was like actually around. Ends up having like a 30-minute match with Adam Cole like out of nowhere on SmackDown.
It was Bryan, and I think Miz was also on that show as well. So they
Yeah.
had like a couple of SmackDown guys, but NXT pretty much got the short call. They came up, and another thing that was very interesting prior to this match, the Undisputed Era and Triple H actually had a segment with Kevin Owens, with the Undisputed Era taking out Kevin Owens. So it kind of made sense for Kevin Owens to be the surprise member of Team Ciampa. But again, there was a lot of mystery to see who this third person was, and it wasn't 100% speculated that Kevin Owens would have been this choice. They were kind of keeping it very close to the vest, and at this time, Kevin Owens actually confirmed a year or two later that he was actually penciled in to go back to NXT, like a Finn Balor did earlier this year. So, for whatever reason, those plans kind of fell through. But that was then. This is now. The build to this match is the Undisputed Era has all the gold, and as we all know in wrestling, those who control all the gold control the power. And that's exactly what they were doing in NXT. They were running rush shot over the NXT Championship Division, the NXT North American Championship Division, and the NXT Tag Team Division itself. What were your thoughts on the Undisputed Era's reign during this time? No pun intended.
Yeah, it was really good, because they had been together now for just over like 2 years in the summers, kind of. Well, Brooklyn 2017 was when they debuted. So since then, and this was kind of, Adam Cole finally won the NXT title in June, I believe it was a takeover then. So this was the first time he, like, it seems weird to say that he wasn't always like a main eventer in NXT, but really that first year he was kind of the semi-main event guy. And, they'd have main events where it was the Undisputed Era against someone, usually in a WarGames match, but this was the first time he was given the title push as the main guy. And then, the tag titles were always usually around someone in Undisputed Era, depending on which 3 guys were healthy and able to be the champs.
Right, yeah, because before it was O'Reilly and Fish, and then Fish got hurt, and then Cole filled in for that one match, and then Roddy took the place of Fish. So you had a bunch of different good combinations within the Undisputed Era. But on the flip side, with Team Ciampa, you had lifelong rivals Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic coming together to join
Right.
Ciampa in this scenario. And it kind of made for an interesting dynamic because Ciampa was kind of pushed as the main face of NXT during this point, and pretty much a position he was never really fully given again after this Undisputed Era story that Ciampa
Right.
got.
Yeah.
Like, he would head the NXT team of Survivor Series the next night, but nothing really came of it other than a match with Adam Cole after this match. And did you think that the excitement of NXT invading the Raw and SmackDown shows and them almost sweeping Survivor Series to a certain extent kind of not diminished, but kind of was distracted out of this War Games match? Or do you think it holds up on its own as its completely separate thing?
I think at the time it might have a little bit, but now when you're looking at it, 4 years later, is if you're just watching the show itself, it doesn't really bleed over. Like, they're not like, oh, tonight we're gonna kill each other, but tomorrow we got to team up for the pride of NXT or anything. They kind of leave that lifting for the Survivor Series when they, I think, mention it once or twice, but it's kind of like still, the pre Wednesday night wars of NXT where it's still its self-contained universe. I think. I mean, obviously Kevin Owens is there, but that's just he's got something to take care of in this NXT universe, so it makes sense for him.
Yeah, so let's talk about the match. The match ratings right here. Ryan gave it 4.5 stars. Meltzer gave it 4.5 stars. Cage Match gave it 8.65 out of 10. So highly regarded matchup within the not only the NXT War Games universe, but the entirety of War Games in general. So when we start off this match, we have Ciampa, Roderick Strong. How did you feel about these two kicking things off? Do you think they were the right two?
Yeah, I mean, I would have had Cole maybe just to kind of push the singles issue between Cole and Ciampa, but it's fine because anyone in the Undisputed Era, I think, would have made sense, and Roderick Strong's probably the best as far as cardio goes and able to have the longest match. So I think it was good. I think you definitely needed Ciampa to start for his team, though. He was the biggest name, outside of what happens with Owens. But I think outside of the three guys originally on the team, he was the biggest guy they were trying to get over.
He was also the smallest guy out of his
Yeah.
entire team too, so it would make sense from a just a cosmetic standpoint for the smaller
Yeah.
guy starting the match. Because what's really interesting is that the babyface team is full of bigger guys for the most part, and the
Right.
Undisputed Era are smaller, average size guys when it compared to other people in wrestling. So it's really interesting how they broke everything down to make the babyface team seem a little bit more not helpless, but like kind of having that just that drama of it
Yeah.
all, of just
Yeah. You
trying
needed
to be
the
like,
Undisputed Era to kind of come in and pick their spots when they get the advantage. And then
mhm,
it was kind of like when, Djokovic or Keith Lee comes in, they're just trying to survive that onslaught until
mhm,
their next guy comes in and they once again get the man advantage.
mhm. Yeah, and let's talk about all these different entrances too, because I feel like with matches like this, the best thing to do is when you have a new entrant in, much like a Royal Rumble or a Gauntlet or any kind of match that has different entrants coming into a match, having a chance to shine for a solid minute and a half, 2 minutes
Right.
is very important, kind of setting your tone and your presence in that match. And a lot of these spots did that for it. So right after we get done with the initial 5 minute period, Kyle O'Reilly comes in. He does his jujitsu stuff, which looked pretty incredible. I think Kyle O'Reilly is very underrated in the in ring style. I would like him to hopefully become presented more when he comes back from injury in AEW. But you got that. Then you had Dijakovic hitting those cyclone boot kicks, which I think looked phenomenal.
Yeah, this is
And
probably the best tease he looked in NXT for quite a while. I mean, he's this like
yeah,
little 4-month run from like the lead up to this until TakeOver Portland when him and Keith Lee have their match. I think that's
which is an incredible match too.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of then, since then he's kind of had stop and push starts, but
this is but again, he's a very athletic big guy, so you could plug him anywhere he goes, and he's doing the Deadline Iron Man Survivor Challenge or something like that. So things are looking up for him present day, but here this is probably one of the best outings that he's had in the ring. Then you had Bobby Fish come in, and I'm tempted to do the "Where's the Lie" gif or a meme that he's in, but he actually did do a great performance because him and Kyle O'Reilly have fantastic chemistry as a tag team. I love I think it's a brainbuster. Fish hits the opponent with the kick, and then Kyle O'Reilly finishes with the brainbuster. Love that double team maneuver.
Yeah, that was good.
And it seemed like everything was flowing at a great pace. You don't see anything like just any down period. If it was a down period, it made sense with the story of the match. So a lot of things were just flowing very well. And then Keith Lee comes in. The crowd's going crazy for Keith Lee when he was at his peak in NXT. And this was really the beginning of that Keith Lee era for a solid 6 to 8 months where Keith Lee was just a killer, for lack of a better term, in NXT.
He's one of the few guys where he had a great night at WarGames, but his actual best part of the weekend actually came at Survivor Series in that 3-way Survivor match where he gets to go at the end with Roman for 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, and he pinned Seth Rollins, I believe, during that match too.
Yeah,
so things were just looking up for Keith Lee, and this was the first time where they just kind of let him loose and let him do his thing. He did the double leapfrog with the Undisputed Era, double over the top rope crossbody. And again, it was one of those things where he doesn't need to do much, but just doing that spot, even though it's a very simple spot to many other people, because he's doing it, it looks incredible, and it got him over like $1 million. And that's another thing with the Undisputed Era. They're selling for all these guys. Great. Phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. They're really
here is the I won't call it like a jump the shark moment, but Adam Cole is just filling the ring up with tables. Tables upon tables upon tables. He puts in 5 tables in the ring. He sets one outside. Why does he need to set one outside? I don't know. But he comes in. Ciampa pie faces him. Cole goes through the table.
Yep.
So Ciampa comes outside, throws him back in. But then the Undisputed Era have the numbers advantage and take over. And then we hear that familiar music with Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens appears. We talked about briefly before, but again, being in that building, what did it feel like with Kevin Owens coming back, NXT attire, prize fighter attire?
Yeah,
he's back.
NXT video. It was even his NXT Titantron and everything. It was really cool to see. Again, I really don't remember it wasn't the old day, No Way Out in 1998, where it's oh, I wonder who's, it was just kind of oh, they're going to have a mystery partner. And I mean, NXT, even back then, the roster was deep enough that there were guys they could have picked that wouldn't have been, ground breaking, but you could have been oh yeah, I could see they're in the upper mid card, or they could pass as this. But yeah, to go with Kevin Owens, though, it was really good. And like you said, it made sense because on Raw the week before, they had the beatdown, the Undisputed Era attacking them, and even afterwards, Triple H was yelling at Undisputed Era in the locker room, you don't want this guy mad at you. What are you thinking? And then when he comes out, it was awesome, and he just is in full on kick ass. No, it's not. He always had some humor, but I think it got kind of magnified on the main WWE show, SmackDown or Raw. But here in NXT, he's back to his normal, I'm just going to beat the shit out of everyone mode.
Yeah, and then you had Mauro Ranallo's call, holy bleep. It's Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is here. And then Kevin Owens runs roughshod on all the 4 members of Undisputed Era. And then finally things start to slow down a little bit. We get even a package pile driver tease by Kevin Owens on the little metal grid on the end. And still to this day, he has not hit the package pile driver in WWE or NXT.
If he was going to do it, it probably would have been like here where
Yeah.
would have just snuck it in.
Yeah, but again, I think the one of the spots of the match, one of two, was the Panama Sunrise Canadian Destroyer by Adam Cole onto that grate. Compared to other spots that you've seen, do you think this is probably the most brutal Canadian Destroyer that you've ever seen?
Probably. I'm trying to think of the other times I've seen it on the floor sometimes, but at least that, has the padding there usually. But yeah, this was, and I mean it worked. They were both very safe about it, but no matter how safe you are and how confident you are either doing it or taking it, that's still pretty dangerous move to be taken on steel.
All right, and then we fast forward to the ending of the match, and such a poetry in motion ending. You had all these tables set up from before. You had a table that was half set up on one side of the ring. Then you had two tables within that ring as well. And then on the other side of the other ring, you had two tables set up. And this is how the ending happens. So they're trying to put Keith Lee through one of the tables. Dijakovic comes out of nowhere, choke slams Roderick Strong through the half open table. Roderick Strong is out. Then you got Kyle O'Reilly putting the triangle submission hold onto Dominik Dijakovic. Dominik Dijakovic is like feigning a tap. He's passing out a little bit. Kevin Owens comes from the top rope, frog splashes Kyle O'Reilly through a table. And then Keith Lee hits the spirit bomb to Bobby Fish through another table. And then probably the spot match, the crescendo of everything. It was a giant air raid crash from the top of the cage. Tommaso Ciampa puts Adam Cole through two tables, lands on top of him perfectly for the 1, 2, 3. And the War Games goes to Team Ciampa. Now, when this is all said and done, where does this match rank among the matches you've seen live and in person?
I think it probably is second. First is going to be Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, WrestleMania. And then after that, it's probably Ciampa Gargano versus DIY in Brooklyn, where they lose. But after that, I'm trying to think. Batista Undertaker's pretty high, WrestleMania. But I'd say that it's probably number 2. Just because of, it might not have the historical significance some of the other ones did, but it's pure talent and work rate. I don't think there's many that could top it.
All right, now that we're wrapping up right here, overall, the story, the match, did you think all of it flowed together? Do you think people should remember this match more? Do you think it's worth a watch back? What do you think about this match overall?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good, and it also helped to set up the next month and a half of NXT. And it's always kind of one of those things I wonder how well NXT was going to go before COVID happened and stuff. And that kind of, it hurt them probably the most out of all of 3, at least WWE shows. Because, part of the thing is it's still, not so much for Adam Cole and Ciampa, who've been wrestling for 10 years, but it's still a training center. So that not being able to perform live hurt a lot of those guys. So I think it's kind of a what if scenario because, they set up, I think the next show from here, they had all 3 guys. They had a Lee and Djokovic versus Undisputed Era tag title feud. It seemed like they were going to go for a little bit. And then also Ciampa starts his feud with Cole. And that had been building since he came back because he never lost the NXT belts. So
I believe that tag match is the famous gifts that Keith Lee had. One where he pounces Adam Cole to the crowd.
Oblivion.
And then the one where Keith Lee rises like the Loch Ness monster onto Finn Balor. So
Yes.
again, they were firing on all cylinders. I love this match personally. I think it's probably if it's not the best Undisputed Era War Games match, it's probably top 2 in my opinion.
Yeah.
Personally, I have it as my number 1 for the Undisputed Era. But yeah, love this match. I think short term, what hurt it was you had all these performers performing in the next night in Survivor Series.
Yeah.
So kind of not ruined, but it kind of tarnished the mystique of the War Games and that finish at the end when Adam Cole is retaining his NXT championship after that giant fall. But again, that's just a little nitpick.
Yeah.
But overall, love this match. Ryan, thank you
Yep.
for joining me to this lovely stroll down memory lane, and for the NoSo getting their number 7 War Games countdown. We're almost to the top 5. We're almost there.
Yep.
But
1 week left.
yep, 1 week left of War Games. Hope you all enjoy it. I'm Richie Mars. You can follow me on the TikTok, on the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts for Wrestling Retold and Relived with Richie Mars. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Ryan, do you have anything you like to plug or no?
No, I'm here on the Chronoso watch. I turn up on those, and then on the Place to Be site, I have With This Ring with my wife. We drop that every once a month. We're up to Survivor Series 1998 right now, so that's fun.
A historic show too.
Yep.
I'll make sure to keep a lookout for that. All right. So we'll see you guys at the number 6 countdown of the NoSo War Games top list.